Can you take me higher? Come on, Adam, sing it with me. To a place where blind men see. Can you take me higher? Come on, you're not even gonna sing. I wanted to have a victory tune. I wanted to do a victory lap. This is the Viking Age podcast. It's the official podcast of the VikingAge.com. My name is Chris Schad. I write for the Viking Age Zone coverage, Bring Me the News, and the Brookings Register. My co-host, who is apparently on mute, I'm just going to assume he's on mute. He is the managing editor of the Viking Age. He is Adam Patrick. We do this every Monday with a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. Now, of course, it is Monday. We will acknowledge him later in the show. We will preview Monday's matchup with the Chicago Bears a little bit. But first, overreactions from Sunday's win over Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons. Adam, since you're not in a talkative mood, I'm going to go first. Okay. This is the most satisfying Vikings win since they beat the Saints in the playoffs in 2019. Technically, it's 2020, but 2019 season. That playoff win, I'm on the record of saying it set the franchise back 5 years. And I think maybe what I'm about to say will validate it, because in the moment, it was very satisfying. You had Cam Jordan talking shit. You had all of the national anthems, all the national analysts, like, Terry Bradshaw and the old folks home on Fox. They're like, oh, I love these Saints. They're pretty good. This is the most satisfying win over the past 5 years, because when you think about it, you have the win in Buffalo, which was, another one of those, the Vikings are 8-1, but I don't know if they're good. And then you had the 33-point comeback against Indianapolis. Some may even put that Monday night win against the 49ers last year in this group. You can go, yeah, but in any of those games, though, like the Bills fumble in their own end zone when they're trying to take a knee. That was weird. Jeff Saturday wasn't scared to blow a 33-point lead on the road. And then the 49ers played that game without Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, and had Christian McCaffrey at 50%, which you might argue Christian McCaffrey is always at 50% because Kyle Shanahan runs everybody into the ground. But Sunday was the most validating win because it was validation. That's the word that I would use to describe it. People who stuck by Kirk Cousins through thick and thin, all the highs, the lows, everything else, they got a reality check on Sunday afternoon. Well, Justin Jefferson's going to leave if you don't bring back Kirk Cousins. Justin Jefferson still plays for the Vikings. I know you saw the TikTok videos. The top 5 trade, we going to put with Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes need a wide receiver. Don't deny that last part, though. 7 catches, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Well, Kirk was so good at getting the ball to everybody. Jordan Addison's going to get mad. 8 catches, 133, and 3 touchdowns for Jordan Addison. And the best one, and I'm borrowing a phrase from Purple Daily's Phil Mackey here, the Vikings will crumble. They'll be the Lions or the Browns or the Bears. They're 11-2 and in the hunt for the number 1 seed in the NFC. So the last one, too, you have the quarterback you deserve. Sleep well, Vikings fans. Sam Darnold threw for 347 yards and 5 touchdowns yesterday. So the win over the Falcons, it does not mean the Vikings are going to the Super Bowl, but I think they have a much better chance of doing it because the quarterback that was wearing black and red on the opposite sideline that took the money is not the quarterback of the Vikings, and it's not my problem anymore. So yes, this is the most satisfying victory the Vikings have had since 2019. Are you ready to speak yet, Adam?
Yeah. I think validation is the exact word that should be used to describe this, because over the last few years, we've heard time and time again about how, Kirk Cousins is the reason for Justin Jefferson's success and everything is wrong, but Kirk Cousins is fine. Why can't they give him a good offensive line? Why can't they give him a good defense? It's coaching, it's play calling. And then he leaves, the second he leaves, and the Vikings are able to, miraculously spend more money on defense, add a running back in Aaron Jones. Get a quarterback who's not afraid to throw the ball past the sticks on third down, who will take shots downfield time and time again, even if Justin Jefferson has 5 players around him. Recognizes that Jordan Addison is also a very good wide receiver, and he can make pretty much just as many plays as just about anybody in this league. So yeah, I think yesterday was validation, and there was a lot of people who were quiet yesterday, who were very loud during the offseason when the Vikings did let go of Kirk Cousins and then signed Sam Darnold, and everyone's like, "Oh, great, enjoy, the next 5 years of purgatory or whatever." And it's like, no, the coaching matters a lot. The Vikings have the tools around the quarterback to be successful, and if you don't think that part of the reason Kirk Cousins was able to be so successful in his last 2 years with the Vikings had anything to do with Kevin O'Connell, then I don't know what to tell you, because he has made a huge impact on everyone he's coached, and it's very, very evident with what he's been able to do with Sam Darnold. But now, now the tide is starting to shift towards, well, they can't let Sam Darnold go now. What? There's no guarantee that JJ McCarthy is going to be better, and I'm going to contradict myself later in this episode about this, but you got to have faith in your coaching staff and in your front office and the other personnel on your team. I feel like the Kirk Cousins era was all about, like, no, we have to re-sign this person. What if they leave? What if Garrett Bradbury leaves? What are they going to do? Who are they going to get to replace Dakota Dozier at right guard?
No, nobody ever said that about Dakota Dozier.
Okay, Ezra Cleveland.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
Throw in your random interior Vikings offensive lineman who the Vikings are fine without, or like Dalvin Cook. Even we're like, oh, what are the Vikings going to do without Dalvin Cook? Well, they sucked. So that one actually is kind of true, but still, the Vikings are fine without Kirk Cousins, as many people figured they would be. Many people thought they would be fine without a 36-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles who's just throwing floaters like he's Steph Curry out there these days. But yeah, I did find Raheem Morris's answer yesterday when asked about if they're considering benching Kirk Cousins, and he didn't flat out say no. He just said, like, we consider everything when we watch the tape. So I'm curious to see what they do, because I don't know how much longer they can go having a quarterback throw for 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
He hasn't thrown a touchdown in a month.
Yeah, and he's thrown for a bunch of yards, but that's what Kirk Cousins does. Like, I think he's second in the league in passing yards right now, but that's what he does. Like, his stats are empty calories, and we've talked about that so many times during his time with the Vikings. Like, he has impressive stats, but they don't translate to wins, and that's exactly what Falcons fans are finding out after getting excited for the first few weeks of only playing the Bucs and Panthers, and now they're playing real teams and not doing well.
It's not our problem anymore. So really, I don't care. But this could be my theory that's going on. You had a psycho owner in Atlanta who's just like, I'm going to die soon. I want to win a championship. Like,
he inducted himself in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, the Detroit Tigers, back in, I think it was the 2000, Mike Ilitch owned the team, and like he was like on the verge of death, and he's like, go sign Miguel Cabrera and Justin Verlander, and I guess Verlander came up with the Tigers, but like trade for Max Scherzer. Like, they did all these crazy like high dollar free agent contract because their owner was going to die, and they didn't get a World Series champion. I think they went to.
I thought they did.
Okay, 2006.
Oh no, they didn't win, because Verlander's first World Series was with the Astros.
Correct.
His win.
I think they got there in 2006.
Did they play the Giants? I can't remember.
Who won that?
Or the Rockies or something? It's some weird team.
I don't know.
Marlins,
like that year just sucked, because like the Twins were surging, and then they got swept in the playoffs, which they always do when they get to the playoffs, except for like 2 years ago. But I don't know. Baseball podcast. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more baseball in the near future. Hint, hint.
What? Anything happened?
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. But I think like ownership wanted Kirk Cousins, and the coaching staff did not. Like, that's what I think. Like, it was a mandate from the owner that said, you're going to sign Kirk Cousins and we're going to pay him as much money as possible to make it happen. And the GM and the head coach said, this is bullshit. We're going to do what we want. And we're going to take Michael Penix at 8. And we're going to do. And I mean, a lot of people are looking at them like idiots, but like, look at the signs here. Like, even with the offense right now, they're running Kirk Cousins out of the pistol, which is ridiculously stupid. Like, because he can't move. Like this is and I mean, maybe it's because they want some distance because his Achilles hasn't healed. Although, new nightmare Kirko had like an 11-yard scramble that was negated by a holding penalty during the game. But I mean, they are preparing for Michael Penix, and I think, they might rip the Band-Aid off in the next couple of weeks unless ownership's like, no, you must play Kirk Cousins. And in that case, like, you're going to lose the locker room pretty quick. Like, I know Kirk's a great guy and he's a great leader. And, Dalton Reisner and Brian O'Neill were like crying when he tore his Achilles last year. But I mean, they're screwed. Like, if they keep Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I think they're playing on Monday night too. There's like a doubleheader, and it's the Falcons and Raiders. One? Oh my god!
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. So I think the Vikings are on ABC, I want to say, and then the Falcons and Raiders are on ESPN. So the Vikings game begins at 5, and the Falcons and Raiders begins at 5. Oh my god, who's gonna watch that? No,
I'm shook. Like, there's literally I didn't even know there was I mean, I don't play fantasy, like traditional fantasy football anymore, but I mean, look.
But
here.
they're gonna be on primetime, and I feel like that if Kirk Cousins isn't benched before then, that's gonna be the final straw if he continues to play. If you can't beat the Raiders, if you can't throw a touchdown pass against the Raiders, come on, and then you probably shouldn't be playing. Are you ready for my first overreaction?
Yeah, go ahead. We're 14 minutes into the show. We should probably let you get some airtime.
It was important. It was important. Yesterday was a significant moment in Vikings history, I feel like. So my first overreaction is Jordan Addison would be a number 1 wide receiver on 10 teams in the NFL today if he was not with the Vikings. So I looked at all the teams and I came up with the Bills, Panthers, Browns, Colts, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, Patriots, Saints, and Titans. And there's some you could probably argue as well, but he's just playing really well, especially recently. In his last 6 games, Addison has caught 6 touchdowns and averaged 5 catches for 80 yards a game. He's had 6 catches this season that have resulted in gains of 40 yards or more, which is the second most in the NFL, behind only Jamar Chase. On Sunday, he became the 3rd Vikings receiver in the last 20 years to catch 3 touchdowns in a single game. Stephon Diggs did it in 2019 against the Eagles. Do you know who the other one is, Chris? Happened in 2005 against the Browns.
What was the stat?
3 touchdown catches in a single game.
For the Vikings?
Mm-hmm.
Happened against the Browns in 2005?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I want to say Nate Burleson, but I don't think it's it. Was it Corn Robinson?
Very close. Marcus Robinson.
Oh, wow. I forgot he played for the Vikings.
Right? Didn't he play for the Bears for a while?
Yeah, he was a Bears guy. I mean, Corn Robinson's a pretty good pull for the 2005
I think he made the Pro. I think Corn Robinson made the Pro Bowl as a kick returner.
Returner. Yeah.
So for all the criticism that Quasito Fomensa gets for his draft selections, he nailed the Addison pick, and now the Vikings just need to figure out how to keep him out of trouble. During the offseason, if he can grow a bit and stay out of trouble, I really think he has the potential to join Justin Jefferson, Randy Moss, and Chris Carter as one of the greatest wide receivers in Vikings history because he's that good.
I didn't mean to mention Corn Robinson in a segment where we're talking about Jordan Addison.
Oh, yeah.
Go look it up, kids. Corn Robinson, St. Peter. You'll learn all about it.
Yeah. Good drivers we're talking about here.
There's a reason it's called the Corn Robinson Memorial Speedway. it's almost like Jordan Addison needs like the Robin Big plan. Like you just have like some big dude next to him and be like, I'm big now. If you need a ride, I'm going to give you a ride. I'm basically here to make sure you don't do anything dumb, for lack of a better word, because talent's not the problem. I mean, he plays, like you said, like a number one receiver. And I think, you look at the guys that were taken ahead of him, Zay Flowers with Baltimore.
He's pretty good.
Jackson,
Pretty good.
yeah. I'm just saying, like he's good, but he's not. I think Jordan Addison's a better receiver. Jackson Smith and Jigba.
He's coming on lately.
He is, but also I take Addison over him. Like purple colored glasses, but he was the prospect coming into the draft where, it was his route running. It was everything. When you looked at the guy that he was replacing, Adam Thielen, you're like, this guy can run routes. He can create separation. I know his testing wasn't that great. He said there was a back injury during his like pro day or whatever. But I mean, that has not mattered because he opens up the field. He's going to start commanding attention from defenses. And that's going to A, open up more things for Justin Jefferson, and B, get TJ Hawkinson on track, because Hawkinson was kind of non-existent. And then Jordan Addison kind of started blowing up and they're like, oh, okay. And they started hitting Hawkinson underneath. Like, it's why I'm sitting here going like, if the Vikings want to get crazy in the draft, I know they need corners. I know they need defensive tackles. Go get Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, because that's like dropping a nuclear warhead into this offense.
Gonna have to fight the Cowboys. The Cowboys are gonna give up like 9 first-round picks to get.
Yeah, Jerry's gonna have a few beers and start throwing picks around. I like this Jeanty kid a lot.
Do we think Jordan Addison is better than Quentin Johnson, who also was drafted ahead of it?
Yes.
Well, Jordan Addison can actually catch. So
yes, that's kind of a prerequisite with receivers catching the ball.
And then it's not, and like he's benefiting a lot right now from getting one-on-one coverage with Justin Jefferson getting all the attention. But even when Jefferson was injured last year, he was still making plays. He had that huge game against the Niners, and so he's still able to get open and make plays even when Justin Jefferson isn't out on the field. So, but now he's just like, I feel like the last few weeks, Sam Darnold has just been like, oh yeah, Jordan Addison, he's really good too. So I'm just going to keep chucking the ball, especially deep balls. He's really good at, I feel like, just tracking the ball when it's in the air, and just adjusting to it better than the cornerbacks. Like yesterday, like Darnold's ball, the first touchdown, it was a little bit underthrown because I think his hand got hit a bit, or his arm or whatever when he was throwing it. And Addison was just like, oh, I'm just going to overrun it and then take a couple steps back, get this ball, and then run it for a touchdown. So he's really good. And the Vikings, he's probably going to be suspended next year for the first 3 games, or at least 1 game or something. So Vikings have to think about that, but he's good. He's really good.
Let's go back to the quarterback thing, because spoiler alert, I'm gonna harp on it. The 4th, he's chiming in on our thing. He says Kirko Chains did a great job. And it's got 3 laughing emojis, so I think he's being sarcastic.
He completed 2 passes to the Vikings when he came back to US Bank Stadium. He just wanted to, for old times, just throw to his former teammates.
He could have thrown 4 interceptions yesterday. Yeah. Like, you had the 2, and then you had the 1 where it was like Drake London never had his hands on the ball, but they're like, reception, 15 yards.
The Van Ginkel almost pick 6.
Yes. Like, if those 2 are interceptions,
that
it's even
so great. It would have been so loud in there.
Oh, yeah. US Bank Stadium would have exploded. I don't know, somewhere between like maybe behind Teddy coming back for that game in 2017 and Minneapolis Miracle. And then Kirk pick 6. Mm-hmm. That was a thing. But this is my second overreaction. And it's that Sam Darnold will get a bigger contract next spring than Kirk Cousins got last spring. As we mentioned before, Kirk Cousins got 100 years. I don't know. Arthur Blank probably wanted to do that. Yeah. 4 years, 180 million with $100 million guaranteed, coming off a torn Achilles at age 36. And everybody's like, what? As we mentioned, we love talking about Kirk's stats. 3,396 yards, 17 touchdowns, and a league leading 15 interceptions. Like I mentioned, he hasn't thrown a touchdown in the month, but the Falcons are, you guessed it, in the hunt for the NFC South crown, which will produce one playoff team this year.
It better.
Meanwhile, Sam Darnold is having a revival at age 27. 3,299 yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. In his last 4 games, he's averaging 28 or 20. I can't read numbers today, apparently. 289 and a half yards per game, 11 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The Vikings, as you may have heard, they're 11-2. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. And if he wins a playoff game, he'll have just as many playoff wins as Kirk Cousins does. The Vikings have not discussed a long-term contract with him, according to Adam Schefter. And everybody's like, whoa, why wouldn't you keep him around?
It's December.
This is why. Spot Track estimated that Sam Darnold made an extra $2 million per season yesterday with that performance. His average projected annual value, according to Spot Track, is $34.4 million. And they have a estimate of a 4-year, $137.5 million contract that Darnold could command in free agency. Over the cap has his annual value still at $34.5 million. Maybe they wait until, the week is done to adjust that, but that's still a lot of money. And you got to understand what the Vikings need to do. Like Byron Murphy Jr., you texted me this yesterday. He's getting more expensive with each game he plays. He has the one-handed interception. He's got 5 on the season. Interceptions are kind of a fickle stat. Who's the guy from Dallas who had
6 interceptions?
He has 6 now.
Yeah.
Who's the guy from Dallas who had 20 pick sixes last year?
Deron Bland.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, he's hurt though, right?
I think he just came back.
Oh, he just came back. Okay. So, I mean, interceptions are kind of a thing because you got to have the quarterback throw the ball to you and everything
it's like
else.
Diggs' brother who would give up a ton of yards but get 9 interceptions.
That's like the entire Dallas defense, basically. Take the ball away, but we get our ass kicked. Yeah. Cam Bynum probably needs to be kept for more than just awesome celebrations. That was pretty good. Like here's
safety is a cheap position, so that's one you could probably spend money on and not feel cratered or whatever.
And I gotta bring this up too. Thor Nystrom and Eric Thompson said this online yesterday, but they're like, why do we keep cutting away from the celebration when it's like, do we really need to hear Bundle Ruski for the 55 billionth time?
That's
now they have an outtake commercial.
That celebration, that celebration was crazy when they did. Was it Metellus who did the flip or Bynum who did it? I can't even remember who did the flip.
I think Bynum did the flip, but it was from the movie White Chicks, which I've never seen.
Everyone's like, they keep doing these celebrations. I'm like, yeah, because they keep getting turnover.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, like this is just another sidebar. Like I laugh because offense does anything like that, it's a 15-yard penalty. But defense can do a full reenactment. Whole team all the way down the field. They can do the worm. They could shoot off a pyro. They could do Batista's entrance, with the machine gun pyro.
Don't give them any ideas,
Yeah, do a wrestling one. That's my challenge to Cam Bynum. For the nerds like us, do a wrestling entrance. I don't know.
Do the Scotty Too Hottie worm.
Yes.
And then you'll really be legit,
The caterpillar, as Otis calls it.
Yes.
Great time. I mean, maybe you just go full Sting. You go to the rafters of US Bank Stadium, and I mean, they'll give you enough time. Apparently, just go to the rafters and drop down just with a baseball bat. I don't know. But back to Darnold. You need to fill some holes in free agency because you don't have any draft picks, and some people might think there's no way Sam Darnold could get more than Kirk Cousins got. Like I said, it takes one psycho owner to be like, you're signing this guy and I want him. And then he's there. And the other thing is too, I do think Sam Darnold's got to be very selective with where he goes because the talent's there. I mean, I 100% believe it, especially that one play where like, here's the thing with Darnold yesterday, too. It's like Kirk Cousins would have had a meltdown game yesterday because the offensive line was not good.
Right.
Garrett Bradbury allowed 4 pressures. Blake Brandel,
Is he blocking anybody?
all I want for Christmas is a guard. Like, seriously, like
2 guards.
Two guards. I don't know, 2 guards and a center. It's like, there we go. We got the 12 days of Christmas. We got 2 and 1 figured out. 1 pass blocking center. This is the musical episode of the Viking Age, apparently. Like, I just hope Sam Darnold got Mike McCartney's number from Kirk Cousins, because like Kirk, hey bud, you look pretty good out there. Here's my agent's number. You might want to give him a call. Or like if NFL were WWE, Mike McCartney would be like waiting outside of the locker room and like turn on Kirk Cousins. This is my new cash cow, Sam Darnold.
He's a Paul Heyman guy or Mike McCartney guy.
Print the shirts.
All right. So since we're on the topic of Sam Darnold,
Yes.
I'm just going to get right into my other overreaction because it's related. So talking about how expensive he could potentially be next year. After yesterday and after the last few weeks, I don't know how this happened, but I would be okay with the Vikings re-signing Darnold in the offseason. I'm not saying this is what the Vikings will do or what they should do, but I'm just saying if the Vikings think they can win in 2025 by re-signing Sam Darnold to, a more expensive contract than the one he's making this year, I think I'll be okay with it. I also don't think Darnold will be as expensive as some people might think. Because at this point in his career, I think he's just not going to sign with whatever team pays him the most money. I think he's, like you mentioned, he's got to be selective with where he ends up because of how poorly his time went with the Jets and Panthers. He doesn't want to get back there again because there's teams like the Raiders and Titans who could offer him a bunch of money and then he could just go back to being terrible Sam Darnold, but he'd just be making a lot more money. Maybe that's what he wants. But, so let's say the Vikings offer Darnold a 3-year deal for $105 with $50 million fully guaranteed. That's $35 million per year, which is slightly above the spot track valuation or whatever. It's higher than what Baker Mayfield is making from the Bucs, and the $50 million fully guaranteed is $10 million higher than what Mayfield just got for the Bucs. So if the Vikings sign Darnold to like this type of deal, they could potentially get out of it in 2026 after one season and pretty easily in 2027 if things go wrong. And then you have, the people who might be worried about J.J. McCarthy being on the bench too long. Well, he's still only 21. And even if he sits for another 2 years, if he has to, he would be 24 at the start of the 2027 season if he was a starter by then. Bo Nix, that rookie quarterback for the Broncos, he's 24 right now. So, and McCarthy would probably be a better backup for Darnold than anything they could probably find. Sorry, Daniel Jones. And there's no guarantee that Darnold's going to be durable for all 17 games next season or the season after. So McCarthy would probably get a chance to play. I just don't know. The Vikings offense looked really, really, really good yesterday with Darnold running everything, and he has arguably been a perfect fit for Kevin O'Connell's offense. But bottom line, I have faith in whatever the Vikings do at quarterback moving forward as long as O'Connell's a head coach. But I just don't think I'm going to freak out or anything like that if they actually do decide to re-sign Darnold.
So you need a couple. It's like there's a domino effect that needs to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think this should be a case of the Wilfs going, you need to sign Sam Darnold or else you're all fine. This contract extension, we're going to tear it up, which honestly, the Wilfs should have been down there with a blank check for Kevin O'Connell yesterday. Because I mean, look at the body of work here. Yeah. Let me throw a counter at you.
Okay.
Let's go back to 2022.
Yep.
This quarterback, this sound like the dating game. He had 4,282 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, led the league with a 69.8% completion rating. Sounds pretty good. Made the Pro Bowl. I don't know. Pro Bowl matters anymore, but whatever. The next season, he threw for 3,624 yards. He missed 2 games. 20 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. And this year, in the second year of a brand new contract, I got to look up the numbers here, but he has 3,474 yards, leads the league in passing yards, actually, 14 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Would you care to guess who that is while I look up his contract?
Is that Geno
Smith. And that is the Seattle Seahawks, who, when you think about it, has a pretty good infrastructure. We mentioned Smith and Jigba. They also have DK Metcalf, who is very good at his job.
Really
he signed after his first year as a starter. Sorry, I'm looking for it here.
Like 3 years.
3 years, 75 million.
Yeah.
So actually, it wasn't as much as I was thinking. But I mean, you got to kind of look at it the same way. Like, yeah, you could sign Sam Darnold, but the Seahawks, they're about a 500 team since they signed Geno Smith to that contract. So, and I mean, you could argue to the Vikings have a better defense. They're actually a lot older than people think.
Yeah.
Because you have Gilmore, you have Harrison Smith. You do need, you need something along that defensive line, and you're going to need some corners and maybe even a safety next year. But I don't know. It needs to be for the right price. They need to take the same process they did with Kirk last year, where they said, hey, we like to keep you. We love working with you. Here's a contract. If you don't, we totally get it. Whatever. I'll also counter with this. If this continues and the Vikings don't approach Sam Darnold with a contract at all, what does that say about what they think of JJ McCarthy?
That they like him a lot.
Yeah. And
so
I value Kevin O'Connell's quarterback opinion right now. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And then again, I'm not saying this is what they should do or they will or whatever.
You're a Darnold defender. The franchise will crumble without Sam Darnold.
But I'm just saying, like, if they do it, I'm not going to be like, oh no, what are they doing? They're ruining their future or whatever. I'm happy that the Vikings are even in this position. Where last year it was like people are like, well, what are they going to do if they don't sign Kirk Cousins? If they don't sign Sam Darnold, we already know what the next step is. They have someone in waiting. But if they feel like say Sam Darnold takes them to the NFC Championship or even the Super Bowl, like that's going to be hard to let him go somewhere else. And it's not a Case Keenum thing. Like Darnold is playing way better than Case Keenum did in 2017. Like that team won a lot because of the defense. This team has won a lot because of the defense as well, but Sam Darnold is playing like one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL as well. He's developed a really good chemistry with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Hawkinson's starting to, kick back up. I just think, and yeah, the Vikings have to be smart about it if they re-sign him. They can't. And I think Darnold, he's still at the point in his career where, like, you can come to him and be like, yeah, dude, we know you had a good season, but the years before, you weren't that good, so we can't give you this, huge amount of money because you've only done it for one season. So there's no guarantee. And him too, like he's got to be like, do I want to go somewhere where I don't, have a chemistry with the receivers? I don't have a great relationship with the coordinator, the play caller. Like him and O'Connell right now are just becoming like they know exactly what the other person wants out of the other, and it's doing really well. And to know that Kevin O'Connell wanted Kirk Cousins to come back last year, that was confirmed once again in a recent report from The Athletic. Makes me think that he's probably going to do the same thing for Sam Darnold in the offseason. And it's going to be a big topic, and I'm sure Justin Jefferson loves talking about the quarterback position and what the Vikings are going to do, but I think the Vikings I think it's a win-win situation either way, because if they sign him, I think it's good. You still continue something. And if they don't, then you just go right into the JJ McCarthy era. And if you don't think he's going to be successful, then you haven't been paying attention to Kevin O'Connell.
I'm surprised going back to, because I was like, what did Case Keenum make? Because it's a very similar situation when you think about it, where Keenum, it's one good year. We haven't seen you do it before. He only got 2 years, $36 million from the Broncos.
But that was like that's like 7 years ago.
Right.
The cap's gone up by like 300.
Quarterbacks are making $55 million now. What's up, Jordan Love? I mean, Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into
And
it.
I think the Vikings having their head coach be the play caller also makes a big difference in this, because you mentioned the Seahawks, but their coach is a defensive guy. So if their offensive coordinator if he does well, he's probably going to leave, like a Zimmer situation. So that's different for someone like Geno Smith, where with the Vikings you have more of an Andy Reid type situation, a Sean Payton thing, where if your offense is good, it's probably going to be good for a while because your head coach isn't going anywhere. So it's a very interesting situation, and should have plenty to talk about this offseason.
Well, one other thing we have plenty to talk about is Underdog Fantasy, which is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all of your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats. You could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all of your takes this football season. Which players are going off, which ones are ice cold. Make your entries in just a few taps and turn your sports opinions into real money. Underdog also has vulture protection. If you select a designated running back to score a touchdown in your pick'em entry and they get vultured, we will rescue your entry. And Underdog also has a game known as Red Zone Rush, a game you won't find anywhere else. Just pick whether or not a player will score a touchdown by swiping right for yes or left for no. It's as simple as that. Plus, your entry will automatically be boosted and you'll get a 51% profit boost when you play. I have used the Underdog Fantasy app for years. Adam is a player as well. Maybe you got in on the action. Maybe you had a Kirk Cousins interception yesterday. Maybe you had, Jordan Addison scoring a touchdown. You can do all that stuff. Even the college football playoff coming up. Maybe you like Indiana, Notre Dame, a game I'm very excited in, and you want to, pick higher or lower on some college players. You can do that as well. All you have to do is download the app today. Use the code The Age. You get up to $1,000 in bonus cash match instantly. Again, download the app today. Use the code The Age, which is all one word. You get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Just select higher or lower on your favorite players and cash in on Underdog. You must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. If you are concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. And in New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. Whew. All right.
Side note, you can make some picks on the Holiday Bowl out here in San Diego between Syracuse and Washington State. It's coming up at the end of the month.
I don't know if you saw it. The Gophers are going to the Mayo Bowl.
Ooh.
Which PJ Fleck getting a Mayo bath is like the most Gopher thing
North
ever.
Carolina?
Somewhere in I think Charlotte.
Okay.
So they're playing Virginia Tech. So they got to go to ACC country, take on the Hokies, which is like a bird, I guess, but it's like a turkey.
All right.
The more you know.
I just like Virginia Tech because of their intro.
Oh, Enter Sandman coming in.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
My third overreaction, getting back to it. The Lions and the Eagles still bleed. They're not a machine. They're a man. You made them bleed. Dan Campbell is playing Russian roulette with the Lions season. And he's got the gun. He's going, look at this. This is so much fun. And eventually he's going to splatter his brains on the concrete. Arn Anderson with the Glock for you wrestling fans. They are decimated by injuries right now. They're going for it from their own 28-yard line. They're going for it when they should just kick a game-winning field goal. I think he's scarred from a 2022 trip to US Bank Stadium where he went for it on 4th down all game. Then he didn't go for it and kicked a field goal, and Kirk Cousins daggered him with a touchdown pass to KJ Osborne. The Lions are a good team. I will say it's not that I think the Lions suck. Don't want people from 8 Mile coming out, all high on crack, calling me out. But I think they're a high wire act, and eventually it might not end well for them. Then there are the unstoppable Eagles, who I hear about on every national show, and they're led by a running back, which is hilarious considering, just go get one at the community college. I mean, look at Jordan Mason out there. He's doing all these things in Christian McCaffrey's place. And, if it weren't for some Brazilian steroids, maybe Christian McCaffrey would still be out there. Yesterday, the Eagles trailed the Carolina Panthers 10-7 at home in the first half. They came back, they won, but their coach also very unhinged. And we've seen this team go into the abyss on a dime before. And then there's Matt LaFleur and the Packers. And I know I didn't mention them because they lost, but I guess he's fighting fans now, which I don't know what the hell happened. So, apparently
it's fighting everybody. Every week he's shouting at somebody.
I know. He just seems like the biggest douche on the planet. Just he's got that come at me, bro energy. And I guess this Lions fan was holding the American flag for the national anthem. And then he turned around to the Packers bench and was giving him a throat slash. You guys suck. You're going to lose. And Matt LaFleur was don't talk to my team that way. He got up there at the press conference. He's security should do something.
He's Karen.
What? Yeah. Like a Karen, it's the holidays. It's Chelsea Green. It's the boss's wife in Christmas Vacation, and she's calling the cops to tell him her husband got kidnapped. And he's he was tall and his plates were from Michigan, and he was a huge beastly bulging man, and he was wearing a Herman Moore jersey. Please help me, security, where are you? This thing is wide ass open heading into the NFC playoff game. And like I said, beating the Falcons doesn't mean the Vikings are going to go and win the Super Bowl, and they could lose to any of these teams. But I think they can beat them. I think they can beat all four or all three. I guess four. Let's throw Tampa Bay in because they're scheduled to play Tampa Bay in the first round. They can beat that team. I mean, roll the ball out and see what happens. I mean, I am very excited about this team. And, if they come up short, I'll be disappointed. But I also know there's a future for this team. It's not like a pop-up year. So it's wide open.
I think I would say the one team I would kind of be worried about, not even really, is the Commanders. Just because the Vikings haven't played them all year. They're different. They usually don't do too well against mobile quarterbacks. But even them, you watch this Vikings team and you're they can beat anybody. They have the talent to do it as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot. And they didn't yesterday. Aaron Jones held on to the ball. Yes, they did spank Kirk Cousins. It was very enjoyable. Or Kurt, was his name Kirk Cousins or Kurt? I can't remember.
I'll never forget you.
But it's funny you're talking about the playoffs too, because that's what my final overreaction is. The Packers, who you mentioned last, are going to miss the playoffs.
Oh,
yeah. So currently they're 9-4, and their final 4 games of the season are at Seattle next Sunday night. Then home for the Saints on Monday night, week 16. Then at the Vikings in week 17. And then they finish up at home against the Bears in 18. I think the Packers will lose to the Seahawks and Vikings and beat the Saints and Bears. So this would bring their record to 11-6. Normally, that would be good enough to make the playoffs. But not this year. Because looking at the rest of the NFL schedule, I think the Vikings will probably finish with at least 13 wins. They only need 2 more to do that. I think the Commanders will probably finish with 12 wins. And then the final wild card spot will be between the Packers, probably Seahawks, and Rams. And the Rams are playing really well. They have all their pieces back together. I think they're probably going to go 4-0 the rest of the season and win the NFC West, which would then mean the Seahawks finish 11-6. And since I think they're going to beat the Packers next week, they will get the tiebreaker and the 7th seed and knock the Packers out of the playoffs, and Mr. Peter B will be left with having no idea what to rant or talk about in the playoffs.
Is he the greatest heel in NFL Twitter?
It's got to be partly a bit at this point, I feel like, because it's what did he say? The refs were cheating or whatever last week against the Packers. And it's Dude, they had the same amount of playoffs or penalties as the Lions.
I know I've had a lot of wrestling references in here, so I apologize. We got one more coming up with acknowledge him, so why not throw it on the pile? It's very Chris Jericho heel like. What was it, like the early to where he just spoke very clearly. He used big words. Like when he talks to you, he sounds like a very disappointed parent. Just like, why would you think the Vikings aren't fraudulent at this point?
When he was wearing a suit, short hair suit.
Yes,
Jericho?
yes. A little more fit than he is now, yes. But maybe some other things were kind of swept under the rug back then, but we won't get into that.
He does DDP yoga now. Okay, he's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Packers they're gonna miss the playoffs, and it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be great.
And then they're going to get the next franchise-changing Hall of Famer with that draft pick. Travis Hunter, come on down. Shit.
Now they're going to replace David Bakhtiari at left tackle and have a star left tackle for the next 15 years.
As long as they can find somebody that can slam beers like David Bakhtiari can, because that's actually impressive. I will give him that.
Yeah. Just don't follow him on Twitter. He's got some interesting opinions.
He's got some takes. That's it for our takes or overreactions. But now it's time for one of my favorite segments of the week in honor of former Viking and our tribal chief Roman Reigns. It's acknowledge him. We pick one player, maybe on the Vikings. Sometimes it's not on the Vikings, to acknowledge for their performance or just whatever. I don't know. It's become like this roaming bit at this point. I will let you go first here, Adam. Who do you acknowledge after the win over the Falcons?
This week, it's not a player, it's a former player, but I'm going to acknowledge Greg Olsen. He is the Fox color analyst, and it feels like we've been spoiled for the last 2 weeks with him calling the Vikings game. He better get an opportunity to be on a number one announced team in the near future because I think he's easily one of the best at his job among commentators today. Fox has the Super Bowl this year, and it would be great if they could find a way to not have Tom Brady be the color analyst and let Olsen do it instead. Because I listened to a bit of Brady on Sunday in the Rams-Bills game, and it's just not good at all. And he sounded like he had to clear his throat the entire time, which was really fun to listen to. So thank you, Greg Olsen, for these last 2 weeks. It's been a pleasure listening to you call the game with Joe Davis, who is another great broadcaster I enjoy as well, calling baseball and stuff like that too. But hopefully the Vikings get Olsen on the call for another game this season, but we'll see. But for now, I acknowledge you, Mr. Greg Olsen.
Do we know what the broadcast teams are for next week's game? Is it
Buck Monday night? It's got to be Buck and Equal. I would hope so. I don't think they want to go to Falcons Raiders.
Do you think they just give them the choice? Well, and also too, do you want to go to Minnesota in the winter or do you want to go to Vegas?
It's indoors.
Vegas.
It's indoors. They got tunnels, right?
Yes. I did laugh watching all the wrestling this weekend. They're like, it's so cold in Minnesota. I'm like, dude, it's like 40 degrees. Like, come on, guys. Like, let's
it's
get
like
some
60,
thick blood here.
60 in San Diego. We're bundling up out here.
Got the coats and everything else.
Next to the bathing suits in Target.
Walking around with their shirts off. You know what? Here's who I acknowledge. And his name is Dallas Turner. Now, people who have listened to the show since the beginning of the season, you may recall a take where I said he'll have a Chris Dolman-like impact in his rookie year. That was a little overboard. Maybe I jumped the gun a little bit. But I would argue he changed the game on Sunday because second drive of the game, Kirk comes out like Creed cover band, like he plays all the hits, like he comes out with My Sacrifice. What would be the opener for Creed? Because they got to close with Higher, right?
Yeah, I don't know their song title. I only know like Higher. Off the song title, I can hear the other songs in my head, but I don't know the titles.
Like we're wrestling fans, we know My Sacrifice. We'll just go with that.
They can just they have members of this band, so they can just start with Metalingus to start their set.
Just play Metalingus anyway. Like that's what we really want to hear. Yeah. So Kirk comes out. He's got his opening drive. He's got his scripted plays. Kevin O'Connell's on the sideline.
Like,
yeah. Kevin O'Connell's on the sideline, like he's so dreamy. That's my quarterback. When this is all over, we should get an apartment together. And Dallas Turner did not give a fuck. Because he lit him up on a free run. Nobody touched him. Nobody blocked him. And he hit the hell out of him. It was a why the fuck am I not playing hit on the quarterback. And Kirk Cousins was not the same after that hit. And he's like, oh, too high. Oh, it's really loud in here. Oh, boy. And kind of just got in his head a little bit after that. So, I mean, PFF didn't love the edge rushers on Sunday, but Dallas Turner had a higher grade than Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard. It's turning into a kind of redshirt year for Dallas Turner while he's learning the system, kind of learning under Brian Flores. But that play had the biggest impact on the game defensively in my mind. I know the Falcons got 21 points, but Dallas Turner, I acknowledge you for that hit on Kirk Cousins.
He made a couple of tackles on Bijan Robinson too, where kind of just like shoved him in the ground and got up. And I noticed he was chirping a little bit. I'm sure those two went against. Did they go against each other?
Well, they weren't in the SEC when he was in college, if that's what you're thinking.
Did they play a outer count or bowl game? Maybe I don't know.
I think they had a home and home the last couple of years. Now that you mention it, so maybe he was on that team.
Yeah,
I would think so because he's a rookie. So
yeah, but I mean Patrick Jones was out on Sunday, so that's why Dallas was in there for a lot more. And they had Gabriel Murphy out there. It was a bunch. They had the dude they just signed from the Packers practice squad. I think he got a sack.
Commanders, Jamin Davis.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they had Camus Grugier Hill out there. They used just about everybody on their roster yesterday because that's what they do when they want to confuse Kirk. And guess what? It worked.
And it's also partially too, so I think it's less magnified because the team's a little younger. But towards the end of 2022, when they had things wrapped up, they kind of subbed Asamoah and some of those 2022 guys in. And
you knew they were winning by a lot when Brian Asamoah was playing.
Hey, put some respect. He forced a fumble yesterday.
He did on special teams.
He still exists.
But yeah, I think I remember Patrick Jones. He didn't do too well last year. I feel like in the first year in Brian Flores' defense, and maybe that's some of the things that Dallas Turner is going through right now, and it could also be some of the things behind the scenes. Maybe he's not coaches don't think he's picking things up in the meeting rooms or whatever. But there's always more to the story than just him being on the field. But whenever he's been on the field, he's flashed for sure. And then so I'm excited about him being on this roster moving forward. I think he's got a lot of potential still, and so yeah, I agree with your acknowledgement for Dallas Turner.
Let's move ahead. Of course, we got, a little extra time, but the Vikings host the Chicago Bears on Monday. We hinted at it a little bit. I'm kind of bummed this is the winter whiteout game.
To be the Packers game, I think you texted it to me, right?
Yeah, and I think, at the beginning of the year, you could look at the Bears and hey, Caleb Williams is coming. Maybe they're a little bit better.
Monday night.
Sometimes I know the Bears had a busy out and Keenan Allen. Yeah, they added him. But sometimes teams get rid of dudes for a reason. And Keenan Allen just sounds like a dude who I'm just here to get paid.
Yeah, if you have Justin Herbert and you get rid of Keenan Allen and you're replacing him with Ladd McConkey, I think you should probably see that as a sign. Not that McConkey's playing bad, but
no.
But if you're left with McConkey and your number 2 receiver is Quentin Johnson, who can't catch, I think you should probably take that as a sign of Chargers don't. And Keenan Allen also wanted to get paid too, so that was part of the reason why they let him go. But yeah, it's falling up. It's getting worse and worse for the Bears right now. They just fired their coach, and people thought it was going to be good, and they just got destroyed by a depleted Niners team yesterday.
They had 2 yards at halftime. 2 yards. What the hell? Maybe it's not the interim coach
is the offensive guy.
Yeah, Thomas Brown. I don't know. The 49ers must have really. I don't know. All right, season on the line. Now
the Niners even have left. They have Kittle and Brock Purdy. That's about it.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy got rocked, and Kyle Shanahan was like, "Get up, kid."
He was fine.
he's fine. His arm's over
You can
only
still see out
halfway
of one
across the
eye,
field.
so he's good. Yeah, so the Vikings are currently favored by 7 on FanDuel. I'll be curious to see if that increases or decreases until Monday. You mentioned it is the whiteout game. The Bears have a different head coach than the last time the Vikings played them this year, since Eberflus got fired. And Thomas Brown is now the interim head coach and the interim offensive coordinator. So just doing really well. He just got blown out 38-13, like we mentioned, by the Niners. In that game, they only gained 162 total yards. Caleb Williams threw for only 134 yards, and he was sacked 7 times. Jeez, he's trying to catch up to like David Carr or whatever back in the day.
He hasn't thrown an interception though in a while.
No, it hasn't thrown much.
He hasn't had time to throw one.
And then I think an important thing is with Eberflus gone, that meant the Bears had a new person calling the team's defensive plays on Sunday. And that resulted in Chicago giving up 452 yards and 38 points to the Niners on Sunday. So I actually think the Bears might be way worse than the first meeting between the Vikings and Bears earlier this season. If the Vikings don't beat the Bears next Monday, then Minnesota probably shouldn't be allowed in the playoffs, because this is a really, really bad Chicago team right now. And my early prediction right now would be 33-17 Vikings next week.
In my head, I had the thought of a 3-score game next Monday. And I mean, that could be something that gets dug out and like posted if they lose this game.
Divisional games are weird too. You never know what could happen, but this Bears team is not good.
You excited to see those uniforms on the field? That might be the number one thing I might like is the white helmet.
I kind of wish it was a day game too, because I feel like the white would look better with like the sun shining through the windows or whatever than at night. But whatever, they'll make it look good. The Vikings always do.
Right. And then Packer fans will get mad. They'll be angry Packer fans because they're not actually outside.
Can they just at least make sure they actually paint the end zones white this year? Because last year they didn't. They're like, oh, we'll just leave them purple. And it just looked weird because it was still a regular field, but they were wearing white uniforms. Because the first year they painted everything white and everything was white. But then last year they're just like, meh.
You gotta be careful though. You don't want to get the Purdue end zones. Like, did you see that?
Oh, or the guy didn't know Purdue, he was in bounds.
Yeah, Purdue's end zone is black, but then
they put a green. Yeah, they put like a green stripe in the middle between the white out of bounds and the end zone.
Correct, but like along the thing, there was just a white stripe. Like a small white stripe like you would see at like a high school gym. So like the guy caught the ball on the black and he looked down and he realized he was out of bounds. Like the Penn State quarterback's like, no fly zone. And it's like, yeah.
He did that. Yeah. So, just Vikings, just wear white cleats. That'll help solve everything.
Yes. Break out the Pat. Maybe if who had that interception against, or what should have been an interception against London? Like there are a bunch of white gloves in there, and it's like should have wore black gloves apparently. Or you could summon like witchcraft, so your field goals.
And I saw the Olsen thing where he was like Drake London only had one hand on him. Like, guys can still make one-handed catches, right?
Okay.
Byron Murphy literally did it in the game, but I thought it was an interception too. But I guess tie or whatever goes to the receiver. But I also thought it was an interception because afterwards Drake London got up and was like, "Ha ha, I caught it." And I'm like, you wouldn't be doing that if you like legit thought you caught it.
He didn't even have the ball, and he's like, "First down."
Yeah, he didn't have the ball.
It's like, all right,
and I didn't really like that challenge either because I'm like,
no. It's not something they're gonna. That was a frustration challenge. It's like he chucked that flag like towards midfield.
Sometimes.
Challenge it!
Yeah, sometimes coaches go like full baseball umpire, and they're like, "I got to argue with the ref for this just to pump my guys up or whatever." But Kevin O'Connell's been pretty good with challenges this year, but that one not so great.
Well, maybe, and just maybe, after the most satisfying win of the past 5 years. Viking season will end in the Super Bowl.
That could change in week 18 against the Lions.
True. Our tribal chief, Will Reichard, will line up for a winner against the Chiefs. And then a ball will be up in the air. And then Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift will merge into this like satanic, other being. And like Harrison Butker's like, can you make me a sandwich still? You're half a woman, basically. I'm going overboard. We should probably shut this shit down. Hey, what's going on at the Viking age right now?
Right now we're recovering from post Kirk Cousins bashing. He looked like, speaking of people that look like, we didn't speak of this, but people who got their dog shot, like after his press conference yesterday was just like, looked like someone shot his dog. He's just, well, we gotta get it together and figure out how to solve this because it's just not good enough. The typical. Did you see Aaron Rodgers' press conference?
No.
When they were like, "Hey, what's it? How do you react to the Jets missing playoffs 14 years in a row?" He's like, "I've only been here for 1 year, so I don't really care about 13 years." It's like,
He's got 1 foot out the door so he could go smoke crack on 8 Mile or something.
Raiders?
Maybe I could see the Raiders being dumb enough to do it. Why would you want that guy on your team right now? I mean, if he was
NFL.
good, it'd be one thing, but
listen, Joe Mixon's still in the league. He punched a girl in the face, and they're like, "Yeah, you can score touchdowns."
Well, that's the thing. Joe Mixon's still good at football, so people look past that. Like right now, Aaron Rodgers isn't good. Like I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying if you're good at football, people will look past things.
And Rodgers could also be like, "Hey, look at Darnold. He left the Jets and he was really good. That could be the same thing for me." So he could say that.
Yeah.
Or will Aaron Rodgers just fulfill his destiny and not play for the Vikings, but play for the 49ers who passed on him in the draft way back in the day? That would be interesting. But yeah, go check out the Viking Age. We'll be covering just some stuff from yesterday's game still, and then looking at the playoff odds. I believe the Vikings have. I want to say if they win on Monday, they'll be in. They'll clinch a playoff spot because they could have got it yesterday, but the Bills had to. I don't know what they did at the end of the game yesterday, but they lost, and so the Rams won, and the Vikings still weren't able to clinch. But I think if the Vikings win next week, they're in. So yeah, go check all that stuff out. TheVikingAge.com. Follow me, Adam Patrick NFL, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, wherever.
Well, as you heard, Adam Patrick at Adam Patrick NFL. Me, Chris Schad at The Real Chris Schad. We are the Viking Age podcast. We do this every Monday with a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode. We can spread the word to the masses. For Adam Patrick, I am Chris Schad. This has been the Viking Age podcast.